A luxury birthday trip to Cabo, 6 friends, and a viral video that shocked the world. 3 years later, will anyone be held accountable for the death of 25-year-old Shanquella Robinson? Hey, deep divers, it's Sali, and you're watching Deep Dives with Sali, where we break down the most intriguing and complex stories happening in the world. Today, we're going to discuss the Shanquella Robinson case, and there's been some recent developments. So, if you don't know who Shanquella Robinson is, she was one of the women who went to Cabo with one of her group friends and ended up getting unalived. So we're going to unpack and break down what really happened in Mexico, why the US Justice Department walked away, and the brand new court documents and lawsuits that could finally force answers. So grab a seat and let's dive in. So to really get into Shanquella's story, we need to start with the Cabo trip and the viral video. So we're going to go back to 2022 at around October 28 to 29. Shanquella arrives in San Jose del Cabo with 6 friends. And these 6 friends are called the Cabo Six. That is what they refer to her as. And the Cabo Six includes Shanquella Robinson and Daejhanae Jackson, Elise Hyatt, Malik Dyer, Winter Donovan, Khalil Crook, and Nazir Wiggin. And it's super important to pay attention to these names because we're going to later discuss the case in further detail. And that's going to also get into who was specifically involved in the death of Shanquella Robinson. Within 24 hours of their arrival, Shanquella is unalived. Travel mates tell her parents it was alcohol poisoning, but then there was a leak footage that started surfacing on the internet of a woman who's now identified as Daejhanae Jackson beating on Shanquella, a naked, defenseless Shanquella, while others film. Mexican autopsy cites severe spinal cord injury and atlas luxation. So in the video, in the graphic video, you can hear one of their male friends in the background who's filming saying, "Can you at least fight back? Can you at least do something? Can you fight back?" And Dejanay allegedly in the video is just very persistent, continuously beating on Shanquella. So the information revealed in the Mexican autopsy and the information revealed in the US autopsy contradicted each other. The Mexican autopsy noted that Shanquella has severe spinal cord injury. However, the US autopsy noted that her spine was in fact intact and the cause of her death was undetermined. So as a result of the US autopsy, federal prosecutors meet her family and announce to them that there's no federal charges and that the evidence doesn't meet the burden of proof. So then comes the public outrage. The hashtag Justice for Shanquella explodes all over social media. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit back towards the time the US autopsy was taken. So the US autopsy was conducted on November 17, 2022. So then on November 23rd, of just a couple of days after the US autopsy was conducted, the Baja California Sur Attorney General secures an arrest warrant for femicide. An Interpol red notice follows, but Jackson never sees cuffs on US soil. And for those of you who don't know what a red notice is, so a red notice is issued by Interpol and is basically a request for law enforcement worldwide to locate and provisionally arrest a person with a view to their extradition, surrender, or similar legal action. So it is basically an international alert for a wanted individual, but it's not an arrest warrant itself. So at this point in time, the Cabo Six or the Cabo Five, unfortunately, is roaming free on U.S. soil, and they're not being held accountable for the death of Shanquella. And even with Daejhanae Jackson having a red notice on her, she's not seeing cuffs at this point. And do you guys know that Daejhanae Jackson officially changed her name? We're going to get into that later in the deep dive. I think I remember the time on social media when Shanquella's case went viral and people started to find out about her death and the whole situation that occurred in Cabo. A lot of people started to look into Shanquella's friends' social media platforms, and some people have noticed that Some of their friends were deleting their social media pages, and people were just wondering why not just lawyer up and speak to the police. And people were also wondering if their parents were helping their kids get away with murder. So there was just a lot happening online. People were trying to get answers. Things just did not add up. They're saying that Shanquella broke her neck, but how? Right? And then the friends are saying, well, it was alcohol poisoning, but then the Mexican autopsy is showing painting a different story. It's showing that she has some type of dislocation on her spine. So what was really the story here? So at this point, the US is not pressing any charges. The the friends are not getting arrested. So we're going to fast forward to April 2024 when the mother of Shanquella, Salamandra, files a 100 million suit against the Cabo Six, the FBI, and the State Department, alleging a botched investigation. So Mama comes onto the scene and she wants justice. And in October 2024, there was a separate wrongful death suit that targeted the six travel mates for battery, negligence, and conspiracy. So that during this whole time, Daejhanae Jackson quietly changes her name to Imani Green and moves to Connecticut, and four defendants ask a judge to throw out or transfer the case to Mexico. I don't know if Daejhanae Jackson, who now goes by the name of Imani Green, I don't know if she thought that changing her name was going to do anything for her, or maybe she just wanted to escape the life that the life that everybody knows, because this case did go viral and people started demanding justice for Shanquilla due to the leaked video. And and I feel like with the recent developments, something is going to eventually follow her, because I don't know if naming changing your name is going to be enough. So, literally, this year, in March 2025, the FBI drops a 100-page file, which reveals 11 unanswered questions is sent to Mexican prosecutors, interviews describing frantic attempts to, quote, sober her up, and confirmation that an arrest warrant was granted in Mexico as early as November 2022. The family argues that the documents proved U.S. agencies drag their foot. I believe that the government releasing that 100-page FBI file on Shanquella Robinson wasn't random. I feel like it was very strategic on how they did it, and I feel like they're trying to prove several things. One of them being that they want to show that the FBI did its job. The DOJ came under fire after announcing in April 2023 that no federal charges would be filed. So there was a lot of public backlash, and many believe that the government failed Shanquilla. Even her family, they're like, why are you guys not demanding justice? So the FBI filed basically this drop acts as a receipt moment to show that they interview all six Cabo members. They cross-checked Mexican autopsy findings. They sent formal inquiries to Mexican prosecutors, and they reconstructed timelines of events. So they're saying that we did our findings, we have receipts, and this is what it is. And they're basically saying this is the paper trail. We're not just sitting on our hands. And I think the second thing that they're trying to suggest is that the problem isn't the government, the problem is Mexico. So they're trying to blame Mexico by saying, look, here are all these 11 unanswered questions that we sent to the Mexican authorities. They haven't got back to us. Here's a note that Mexico delayed responding. And then they're also mentioning jurisdictional limitations. So they're trying to say, in simpler terms, we try to cooperate with Mexico, but their system slowed us down. And that's why we couldn't charge anyone in the United States. I also feel like the government, they're trying to get ahead of these civil lawsuits. So if you guys remember earlier in the video, I mentioned that Shanquella's family has filed civil suits against the US government, so the FBI, State Department, etc. So by releasing this file, they're trying to show that the investigation had depth and diligence, and that they reduced legal liability by demonstrating procedural steps. So all in all, they're trying to say, here's proof we didn't neglect this case, so don't say we were being grossly negligent. And that my fourth point being that they're trying to quiet the public. I feel like there's a chance that this is going to pick up more noise. It's going to go even more viral, especially because they dropped this case. Like, literally, they dropped this case, and they're not trying to reopen this case. So I feel like it's a PR strategy. The public still wants justice, but the DOJ doesn't want to reopen the criminal probe without slam dunking evidence. So they dropped the file, has a transparency gesture and a pressure relief valve. So they're trying to say, look, we're being open, we're not hiding anything. Now please stop demanding a federal trial. They are really trying hard not to be sued, and they're also trying to justify why there were no charges, because the file leans heavily on conflicting autopsies and statements that could create reasonable doubt. It paints the picture that one, Shanquella's cause of death was unclear; two, no one confessed; three, there was no clear link that could be proven in the US courts. So they're basically saying we didn't walk away because we didn't care. We walked away because legally we didn't have enough. And I mentioned earlier about those two conflicting autopsies. I'm like, bro, like what is going on here? Like, why are the two autopsies coming back different? And this file, honestly, is the government responding back to Shanquella's family. Shanquella's families, they're constantly and continuously demanding justice, and the federal government, like, look, here's the page, here's the proof, here's the paper trail, here's the evidence, here's the links, here's why we didn't do what you want us to do. Of May 14 this year, the federal judge Max Cogburn hears arguments in Charlotte. So the defendants were saying that they need to try this in Mexico because that's where it happened. And then the family attorney, Sue Ann Robinson, is saying U.S. citizens can't flee accountability by crossing borders. So the judge takes the matter under advisement, ruling expected within weeks. So as of right now, this is still pending. So the judge still hasn't made a decision. So it could either go both ways. It could go either way. It could be tried. This case could be tried in Mexico, or this case could stay in the US where they can keep looking for more evidence and eventually they'll take action. So at this point, the judge hasn't decided yet, and the ruling is expected within weeks. So where does things stand right now? So there are currently two active civil suits from Shanquella's family side. The DOJ say it could reopen the criminal probe if new evidence surfaces. So there's two possible outcomes. Like I said, one of them mean that the judge can keep the case in the US. The civil discovery could unearth evidence the FBI never found, or the case can move to Mexico, where the family faces language barriers, higher costs, higher legal fees, and a slow docket because the system in Mexico is completely different from the US. So, meanwhile, Jackson, or should I say Imani Green, has until her extended deadline to respond to the 100 million suit. 3 years, two countries, zero criminal convictions. Will a civil courtroom finally crack this open, or will bureaucracy bury it? I'm going to keep digging and bring you guys updates as soon as the judge rules. So hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive. And let me know in the comments, y'all, do you think the case belongs in the US or Mexico, and why? I'll catch you guys next time.